Hey guys, happy Mother's Day. By the way, if you're there with your moms, then shut the show off and enjoy time with your mom. Hug your mom, say hello to them for me or your mom for me. I happen to be one of the people that's really, really lucky because my mom and dad are both still alive. You know, when you get older, your health gets more and more fragile. Actually, I'm looking at my dog now, and she's been fragile a lot lately. She's been doing great the last couple nights. Now tonight she's acting a little off, but what are you going to do? When you get older, you get more fragile and it kind of goes day by day, right? So that's what I'm doing with the dog. I'm trying to get her as good as I can, and hopefully it'll be real good, but we don't know. We don't know how I'll be when I hit the age of my dog's years times 7, which is in her late 80s, right? My parents are, my dad's older than, my dad's older than my mom by 7 years. So it's a kind of big difference. 7 years is huge when you get a lot older, right? So look, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit tonight. I don't think there's going to be a huge audience because most people are traveling or they're having their last cup of coffee and piece of cake with their mom. I'll say hello to Allison now, Mike, Tim. How's it going, you guys and girls? Good to see you guys. Good to be together with friends again tonight. It's really cool. So now I've got a show on this coming up Thursday. It's going to be really kind of cool. We're going to talk about time travel. I haven't talked about this topic yet. I don't know what you guys think about time travel. We've covered UFOs. We've covered paranormal investigations. We've covered remote viewings. We haven't yet talked about time travel. Now, I've kind of dwelled on it a little bit or, graced the top of it a little bit. But I haven't really had a guest to talk about, so we're going to do that on Thursday. So I'm curious about this. I'm really curious. I remember when I was, and this is before Twilight Zone. This was before I was really had a TV in my bedroom. But I remember this on my 7th birthday. This is kind of freaky and kind of, why would I even do this? But I did this. And I distinctly remember the day, which is easy because it was my birthday. So it's kind of easy to remember your birthday. I don't remember the exact time of my birthday. It was in the evening. I don't know if it was 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. I didn't focus on the time. But I remember focusing on this on my birthday when I was 7 years old. I sat there, and there was no one in the kitchen at the time. It was in my grandmother's house. And I remember I covered my eyes and I focused. And I said, once I get older, I don't know what age I will use this. I had no inclination to use it at age 60, 65, when I was in bad health or in good health but I remember at the age of 7, I focused in and I said, if I ever want to reset my life back to an earlier age, I'm going to be able to set my life back to the age of 7. Now, I was not clearly thinking enough. I was 7 years old. How developed could my mind be? I wasn't focused on, well, am I going to reset my life so that I'm back to age 7 and my parents are still alive at a very young age? My grandmother's there. It's my exact birthday where I'd be able to come back in time to the age of 7 with, I don't even know if I would focus back on the age of 7, knowing everything that I accumulated from age 7 to age 60. I wasn't that cognizant of thoughts, but I do remember that I wanted to focus that moment at age 7 on my birthday in my grandmother's house in the kitchen all alone. I focused mentally on saying, if I ever want to recalibrate my life and do a hard boot, a hard reset, I could come back to this day at age 7. Now, I believe I was going to come back again as a fountain of youth to be age 7 again, but I wasn't thinking about would I still retain all the memories from age 7 to 60, and would my parents and everything be back reset to that? I was born in 1958, so it was what? It was 63? 65. Got to count with my fingers. I was 65. It was 1965. Would I be resetting everything? So I open the door and I see cars of 1965. I don't know. I wasn't that detailed. I'm curious how many of you think that. Have you taken a moment of your life and ever sat back and said, this is the reset of my life? I'm going to talk about that with the time travel guy I want to talk to on Thursday. It might be an interesting perspective because now I've never attempted to reset my life. I think I've dwelled on it a couple times just to see if I could focus back to that age 7 at that specific year. I've never really attempted it. I got to ask the guy that does remote viewing has been on my show a few times, Jeremiah. I think I should ask him that question. If he ever did what I just said, focus in on an earlier time period. Did you ever focus strategically, mentally, and remember that you did this? And can you go back to that remote view of that earlier time in your life? I don't know. It might be an interesting question. What do you guys think? Anyone ever say anything? Mike here says, hey. Mike, how's it going? Allison says, hi. We got Brent here. We got Wendy here. Now, Wendy's going to be really cool because I'm going to meet with Wendy next Saturday, a week from yesterday. We're going to talk about paranormal investigations. And she's going to coordinate with me, and we're going to figure out what might be a cool one for me to participate in. That's going to be really cool because we'll have to figure out strategically how to plan this out, like what kind of equipment I can bring. If I bring equipment, it's going to damage the opportunities for a real investigation with something happening there. Or if I got to bring limited amount of equipment, we're going to figure all this out. We're going to figure out where to go, what day we're going to go there, and we're going to try to bring that to you. I don't think we'll be able to bring it to you live, but I'll be able to record it, bring you back the footage that we recorded live, and then we'll have Wendy on and others in our group to talk about the investigation. We're going to have to talk about how I have to prep myself for this, because I heard from who was it? Someone was telling me I better be prepared for all of this. And I forget who said that. How come my mind's gone? Maybe because my mind is a little bit off today because I'm thinking about how to talk on a show where I don't have any guests tonight. But, Sparky said, I better be prepared for this, because I guess you have to prepare yourself mentally. Maybe that's what she meant, mentally. I think she said you have to protect yourself, because if there is a haunting in this investigation, and if there's something going on paranormally in this investigation I'm going to participate in, I guess I better be prepared to protect myself, because I guess you can get carried away in these things. I guess your mind can be in a dark place at that specific time. So I'm curious, have any of you, by the way, if you want to call into the show, did I put my number there? I sure did. 609-467-4000. It is 609-467-4000. If you feel like calling up right now, talking about something that maybe you focused on an earlier time in your life, where you could where you could do a reset of your life and go back in time to that moment that you've captured and locked away in your mind, like I did. I've tried to go back, I think, but I never really focused on it. I thought, I can't do it. So I wonder how many things you think you cannot do, so you don't attempt them. And it's really sad to do that, because here you see I'm trying to do this show, and of course it's a risk in trying to do a show of any type. But if I didn't attempt it, I kind of regret that. So if you think you want to try something, just go all out and do it, like I'm trying to do here for all you guys and for us all together. So, by the way, if anyone wants to call, it's 609-467-4000. One time, it's funny, I put my phone number there, and I fat-fingered it, and I put the wrong phone number in there. I think some of you guys were actually trying to call that night, because I got some people saying that they kept getting a busy signal or something, which I don't think people get busy signals anymore, right? Bob's here. Brian's here as well. Bob says, hey, Dave, I am back in town. Good to see you, Bob. Good to see you back on checking out the show. Brian says, I have before. I was 3 in my mom's arms, but I could see a third cathode ray tube TV. But I could see in 3D. Oh, in 3D. You could see in 3D. Well, at the age of 3, let me read it again. Brian says, I have before. I'm assuming you mean a previous time in your life, I guess, because I'm talking about locking in on age 7 when I was age 7. So that was the topic I was talking about. So I think Brian's suggesting I had before I was 3. He was 3 years old in his mom's arms, but I could see in 3D. Cathode ray tube TV. Now, at age 3, and at any age at all, you're seeing in 3D. So you might have to come back and tell me more clearly what you mean there. Kurt says, hey, Dave, what's up? Good to see you, Kurt. Good to see you joining the show. Have fun with the show here. Enjoy it. There's not a whole lot of people I'm thinking are going to be here tonight. So I kind of opened up talking about time travel, primarily because I have a guest coming on Thursday, and we're going to talk all about time travel. I'm fascinated with time travel. I'm fascinated about the dangers of time travel. It would seem like you could go without any problem into the future, right? Now, the problem is when you're in the future, can you come back from the future and backtrack? That's dangerous because you're taking information from the future back into the current, assuming you're going to come back to the current time, the time you left, and then you could destroy the future because you know things that have happened, right? So you could definitely change the timeline. Now, if you go into the past, that's an immediate danger there because you're going into the past where you can change where you were in the future. So I'm curious if we ever can accomplish time travel, maybe it's a one-way trip. Maybe we can go into the future, but we're stuck in the future, which would seem fair because if you're going to the future and you're going to see what takes place in advance of your capable lifespan, and you're in the future, you're not going to do any damage there, right? Although maybe you would because you're into the future where you shouldn't be there and you're influencing things that would damage that timeline going forward. So I guess I'm mistaken. You could damage it. If you go in the past, clearly you could damage it. So we're going to have to talk about time travel because I'm really curious about that. We got a lot of people joining tonight for some reason. I thought nobody would join and they'd all be with their parents or their moms, grandmothers, and stuff like that. And here people are watching the show, which is kind of weird. So, by the way, if you want to call up the show, Brian says he was in his grandparents' basement when this happened. When he was 3 years old and he was seeing in 3D. So that's interesting. So Sparky's joined here. Sparky, tremendous person helping me out, actually, to help me book some guests here. Now I'm curious. Right now she is in Alaska. I'm curious how many people have been to Alaska. Alaska seems to be the last frontier, where Alaska might be the place. Is Alaska the place where aliens land? You would think some aliens might want to come here and be sort of camouflaged or here without anyone knowing that they're here. Now, if they're that advanced to actually be able to come here from, now it depends on, if you're taking a short distance, if there happen to be life on one of the moons on Jupiter, and it's not that far a trip, then the aliens might not be that sophisticatedly advanced. But obviously they're more advanced than us because they can go from one of the moons of Jupiter to come to the planet Earth. Now, if they're coming from light years away and they've learned how to bend space to do it, if that's one of the ways that we can travel through those huge distances, people say that that's the way we're going to have to do it. We're going to have to bend space. So it's like a piece of paper. You bend two ends of the piece of paper, and you guys all know all this. Two pieces of paper, 2 points of the paper are far away. When you bend the piece of paper, you can bend the 2 points together that almost touch, and the distance is extremely short. And that's the way you can jump through space a lot quicker. So most people know about that bending of space thing. But if aliens have come here and they've learned how to bend space to get here rapidly from huge distances away, perhaps they are coming here and have the technology to be anywhere that they want because maybe they do have a camouflaging system or invisibility capabilities or cloak of some type, a cloaking device on their ship, potentially on themselves as a being walking around the planet Earth, and their unhuman being is cloaked, but they're among us. And maybe there are some individuals that are tied in to that energy where they're beyond humans. They're still human on planet Earth, but maybe they're tied into some kind of ESP or subconscious where they could actually visualize these people. Maybe that is how people see aliens and I don't see aliens. Maybe those people are tuned in to a frequency and a vibe where they can see them, where maybe if I looked up in space, I wouldn't see the spacecraft that they saw. Any of you guys that have seen UFOs, let me know if you've been with other people that have seen them side by side with you. I'm curious about that. If any of you guys, and I know some of you guys have seen UFOs. Now, UFO does mean unidentified flying object. So just because it's a UFO doesn't mean it's a spacecraft from another planet. It's an unidentified flying object, which could be an identified spacecraft that we've launched. We got SpaceX now, right? SpaceX is some types of vehicles that we have not seen before, right? Or designed differently than NASA has. So it's a possibility that But if you've seen a UFO, I'm curious if you've seen a UFO with people around you, and if it was such a different type of UFO that it could not be an Earth projectile. I'm curious how many of you have seen things that are kind of not UFOs, but you've identified them yourselves as they've got to be unhuman. They've got to be something that is beyond our capabilities. Have you seen anything like that? And have you been there with other people that can validate this with you? And if you have, come on my show, come on with that person if you're still in contact with that person. You know, if you've seen a UFO and someone next to you has seen that UFO, I'm assuming you're going to keep in touch with someone. If I was out there right now, and if I was at the dog park, for instance, and if I happen to see a UFO and I saw that this was no way an Earth projectile at all, and I'm with people in the dog park, and I'm looking at it with them, we're going to exchange data. We're going to exchange like phone numbers, email addresses, so we can keep in touch with each other, so we can talk about this. That's what I would do. I would go out there and I would talk to these people and keep in touch with them. We'll have a 1 year anniversary of us seeing this stuff, right? So let's talk about something. If you guys want to call 609-467-4000, or if you just want to hear me, that's okay too. Let's see if anyone has called. Sometimes, my phone doesn't ring for some reason because I get the ringer off. I get the ringer on now, and I'm even going to physically be glancing over at it to make sure I don't see things ringing here. But if you want to call 609-467-4000, and you can talk to me, and maybe if you call, maybe someone else will call and want to talk to you, and then we can propel this like a domino effect and make things happen. Kurt says, Happy Mother's Day, ladies and single dads. Sparky says, howdy, Dave. Good to see you. Howdy is something we say in Arizona. It's amazing how many people will say howdy to you. John's here. John as well. He says, Dave, how's it going? Your show is fun. Sparky, thanks so much for saying my show is fun. I try to make it fun. I try to make it entertaining. Sometimes I got to talk on my own, which is tough. It is tough. I appreciate all these people that come on the show, Art Bell or anyone that does political chat, and I don't do that at all. I have no interest in going into politics. But these people can talk. I'm looking up. I thought I saw a fly. There's a fly that's in our house now. We have 2 cats and 1 dog, and I'll tell you what eats the fly, the dog. The dog eats the flies. I have to make sure she does not eat bees, right? Let's see who else we got here. John is here. They land in Brooklyn. Aliens have landed in Brooklyn. So John, I got to ask, John, if you've seen aliens land in Brooklyn, then you got to hook up with me. You got to call the phone. You don't have to, maybe if you don't want to call tonight, but you want to be a guest. If you've seen aliens in Brooklyn and you've seen landings in Brooklyn, you got to be even more than a caller. You got to be a guest because we want to experiment with you. We want to understand what you saw, how you saw, where you saw it. I want to understand that more than a guest, a caller. You got to be a guest. All right, John? You got to do that. Do that for us. Not for me, do it for us, everyone listening in. Let's see here. We got Kurt says, any ancestors are more Any ancestors are more talented than NASA. They made it all the way to heaven before NASA. That's true. Just made it just to the moon. Sometimes I put all my screens too small because I gotta launch like 4 screens and be able to do the broadcast here. So it's right. Our ancestors have made it beyond NASA because our ancestors who have now passed before us are part of the universe. I've tried to talk about this topic before. What is the universe? What is consisted of in the universe? It's energy, it's dark matter, it's planets, it's solar systems. But is the universe also all of us that have passed away? Are we all part of a collective? And maybe that collective is the universe. If you really think about it, are we really living on a planet Earth? Or are we living as a collective consciousness that maybe some of us are not ready to be fully connected to the collective? So we're still developing our personalities and our capabilities. So the collective, then they say, well, this entity here, this Dave entity, he needs a little bit more of an enlightenment. He needs to understand a little bit more about the universe, about the energy. So maybe they decide where they're going to put me, where they're physically going to put my mind, not my physical body, because maybe my physical body doesn't exist. but maybe my mind and my energy that is my soul and mind is actually decided by the collective of where to put me and in what time period, because maybe that's what the universe is. Maybe it's a collection of consciousness with none of this around us, no planets, no solar system, nothing else. Maybe this is an experiment. I think somebody said that. Maybe this is an experiment, and the experiment is an education of each one of the consciousnesses within the collective universe, which is just an energy of thought. But then some of us are not quite there yet to be major participants in the collective. So they decide, okay, well, Dave is lacking here. He needs to be really educated from almost, maybe you could call Earth ground zero, because we just got off the planet not that long ago. And some people think that we never even got off the planet. We never landed on the moon, because we have those people who are potentially listening to tonight's show, because I share this show with the people who think the moon landings were a hoax. But, we're here on Earth, but are we really here on Earth? Or are we an experiment? Now, last Thursday we had a guest come on, a caller who actually became a guest, and she actually was abducted. So she's in a different realm altogether. She was abducted at the age of 4. She had hybrid children of human/alien. If you want to listen to that broadcast, that was fascinating. Go back and listen to it. You can go to Dave Darren's show, and you can view that show. In fact, that happens to be one of the archives I put out there as quickly as I could. So that's out there on YouTube. Look for Dave Darren Show on YouTube, and you can replay that one as well. That was pretty fascinating. Let's see what everyone else has got to say here. Let's get back to the moon before we talk about bending space. John says that. John, we've been to the moon. Now we're trying to, I think specifically, we're trying to go to Mars. Now, I haven't really studied NASA's plans or anything of that nature. Now, we've got the space station out there, right? And that space station's been out there a long time, right? What's it doing out there? It's just collecting it. What is it? Is it really suiting its major purpose? I thought the space station was supposed to be a place where we can go and refuel and jump from the space station to other places, specifically Mars. Now, I think that we're trying to plan a trip to Mars. So John says, let's get back to the moon before we talk about bending space. We've been to the moon. Why not go to Mars next, right? We've been to the moon. We've accomplished that. Now, maybe to get to Mars, we got to do a trip to the moon a couple of times to recreate our abilities. And we went to the moon when we had very, very insignificant technology, right? We had computers on there. So cell phones now, supposedly cell phones are more complicated and more sophisticated than the computers that we had in the Apollo missions. Now, I'm not sure about that. I mean, really? Because I'm sure there are big, bulky things, hugely, because I worked in computers when I worked at General Electric, and actually we did work on the space shuttle, believe it or not. We did the tiles. I remember that. I didn't do that. We did it, not me. But it was an amazing thing. We worked on this Cray machine. I remember that. And we rented time on this Cray machine. We never even physically saw the Cray machine itself. I just remember it was called the Cray machine, and we rented space from, I forget, some other one. I don't remember. It's insignificant. But that's what we did. I was a programmer when we actually had tape machines. You would program, when I was in college, we used the punch cards. A big, thick deck of punch cards. Then it went finally to a tape machine. A tape machine meaning a physical piece of tape. Now, I'm not talking about the big reels of tape. I'm talking about tape machines. So it's interesting how we have progressed. So now if we attempt to go back to the moon before we jump to Mars, maybe we have to go back to the moon with today's current technology just to validate that we really do have it perfected. Because even if we have better technology now, we haven't applied it. So we've got to apply it. I mean, you can create brand new vehicles now compared to the 1970 vehicles. And I've got a 1970 vehicle in the garage. Sometimes the 1970 vehicle that I got in the garage is more reliable than a couple of the 2000 vehicles I've had in my life because it's very simple technology. Sometimes there's an advantage to simplicity. If I want to fix the car in the garage, all I have to really do is check for spark and check for gas. If I don't have one or the other, it's kind of an easy diagnostic. It really, really is. If you got a car from today It's a bunch of sensors. It's a bunch of computer components. So we may have a harder time going to the moon today than we did back in the 60s. It's a possibility because there's just so much that can go wrong. There was so much that can go wrong back then, but it was mechanical components. You know, sometimes I think mechanical components are an easier fix than computer components, because if you got a failure in a computer system, you got a printed circuit board, you got a piece of software. If in my 1970 car, if my fuel pump goes bad, it's not a computer-driven thing. It's not monitored by the computer. I can go to a Pep Boys or I can go to any place and I can pick up that mechanical device, put it in the car. It's not even run on electric. It's just run on it just pumps. So it's such a simple product that if there's a failure of that product, it can be easily fixed without me having to call up a computer guy. So let's see, what else we got here? Let's see. Miller's here. Miller, how's it going? Miller does a show, by the way. You can check out Miller. Miller, now he goes by a middle name, but I think on his radio show he doesn't. He just goes by Miller, Z-A-B-S. And how am I going to pronounce that name? Zabs. I think I got it right because I remember Miller saying it. Miller Zabs, check him out. He's got stuff going on YouTube, actually. So check him out on YouTube. He's trying to do stuff on Facebook, and I got to probably help him to do that because I'm not interested in creating the Dave Darren egotistical show. I'm trying to do the Dave Darren show along with other people that do shows like this. So hopefully I'll get some guests that are doing paranormal shows like this, and I'll have them on the show. That'd be kind of cool, right? I don't mind having those guys on. I don't know if they... you know, it's funny. When you're in music, and I did a music show before this, music was a lot of egotistical people competing with each other. Now, when you're on stage playing your instrument, you got to compete because you want to sound better than that other guitarist. You want to do that better solo than that other guitarist because you want to get better at your craft. When you're playing tennis and you see the two competitors out there playing, they're going to play to their best ability and better than they've ever played before and better than their counterpart. Because it's competition. When they get off the field, you get off a baseball field, all the people shake each other's hands, right? Because at least they're putting on the illusion of having unity. But on the field, they're competing. So, you know, competition in music is out there. Is there competition in radio hosts? There should be less competition in radio hosts because the audience, especially now for podcasts like this, the audience is who? The entire planet is the audience. So don't you think we can share the entire planet where we don't really have to compete? When you're playing in a band in Phoenix, Arizona, for instance, then you got to draw a crowd, and your major crowd is the local Phoenix audience. So I can understand a little bit more about a competitive nature with that. But when you're doing a podcast show or a YouTube show, the audience is the entire planet, not just America, the United States. It's the entire world that gets to hear or the opportunity to hear this show. So do we have to really compete? I don't think so. Now, if you're on terrestrial radio and you're on a station, then I guess you do have to compete because there's other radio stations that may have a similar genre to you, a similar formula, and you've got to have the ratings. Otherwise, you're going to get thrown off the terrestrial radio station. So I get it a little more there. But doing what I do, there should be no competition. So Miller, if you want to, I'll share my screen with you and show you how to do this. All right, it is a little bit tricky though. It's a pain in the butt, really. It really is. And I've had technical glitches too, so it's not all easy. Allison says I saw a beam of light coming down from the clouds one night. It landed on the hood of our parked car. There was no sound coming from it. Now that's fascinating, Allison. So a beam of light coming from the clouds. So that is obviously unusual. Coming down from, so now if you're looking up in the clouds and a beam of light's coming down, where did that beam of light come from? Now, of course, there's periodically in Phoenix, Arizona, if there's something that's going on. You don't see this in New York so much because of all the skyscrapers and all that. But when you're in Phoenix, Arizona here, and especially if you live in the suburbs of Phoenix, as I do, you'll see a helicopter above with the beam, whether they're trying to find someone who's doing something they shouldn't do. That's pretty extreme to have a helicopter there with a beam trying to find somebody. But I'm sure that Allison has identified that it was not a helicopter up there with a beam. Otherwise, she wouldn't have commented on this. It landed on the hood of our parked car. So the beam landed on the hood of your parked car. Did you see anything beyond the beam? I'm curious about that. No sound coming from it. So that's a curiosity. Was it just a beam? Or were you able to make out, it landed on your car, did it leave anything on your car? Was there any residue of this? Was there did you touch it after it landed there? Did you get there quick enough back to the car? Or did you stay away from the car? Because some people, I think I might get a little bit paralyzed for a while. If I was out somewhere in the middle of nowhere and it was just me, even if it was just me, my wife, and dog, I think we'd be paralyzed if we saw a beam of light hit the top of my car that was unexplained. I think I'd initially be a little paralyzed and not go to the vehicle immediately. But I don't know how long I'd be paralyzed for before I started looking at it and kind of trying to weave around and then decide, well, do I go there or not? Also depends on how long that beam's there and how much I can look up and see where the beam's coming from. So that's a curious. You gotta talk about that, Allison. You gotta come on the show here. You don't have to do it tonight, but book some time on this show and let's talk about stuff like that. Let's see. Okay, so John says, I got to read all these things. John and Allison, it'd be really cool if you called up because otherwise I got to read them. And then, like I said, I got these 4 screens on my computer, so I got to read the small print, put on my geek glasses and read them better. And then I got to clean the glasses before I put them on because they're smudged up. And if you want to call up at 609-467-4000, I'm going to put the glasses on so I can look like a total geek. And John says, my father and I saw one flying over the houses on my block. I called the Air Force. That's it. You called the Air Force. No police. You didn't call them. Okay. You called the Air Force. It was bright silver. So I think most people, when they see UFOs, usually their color is silver, right? They said they had nothing like that. The Air Force said that they had nothing like that. So that's interesting. John, did they acknowledge that they got other calls or anything like that? Or did you then call the police and see if they got calls on that same time, on that same night, specifically seeing what you saw? Did anything like that happen at all? You said it went flying over the houses on my block. Depending on the time of day it was or the time of night it was, sometimes there's a lot of people out there, right? If it's during the day, you got kids playing on the street. If it's at night, depending on what time it is at night, got people that are sleeping, so most people wouldn't have been out. So tell me what time of day it was. Allison again says, it then moved over to the top of an apartment building. Okay, this is the light Allison's talking to. There was a beam of light from the clouds landing on her car. Okay, so now she's following up and she says, it then moved over to the top of an apartment building as if they were looking for something. The light had a real sharp edge, much like a laser. Okay, let's say, I don't know if you're going to post more than that because I haven't caught up yet. The other thing is to catch up to everyone's post is kind of tricky. Mike says, doing good, Dave. There's no dead air. Dead air meaning I can continue to talk without that gap in the middle, which in radio terms is called dead air. I get a lot of hot air. My wife will tell you I've got a lot of hot air. Sometimes, when I was listening to too much political stuff on Facebook, I'll take the glasses off now so I don't look like a geek. When I was listening to too much political stuff on Facebook, and you can't not get caught up in that. If you go to Facebook and you go to a homepage, you're going to read so much stuff on politics that your head will explode. And then when your head explodes, my wife says she sees steam coming from my head. And it's easier to see steam coming from my head now since I got less hair. So, it doesn't get stuck in the hair. It actually comes out right away. So you see, I don't have any dead air. I've got a lot of hot air. So let's see. Wendy says, Dave, have a good night. Got to get up early. So Wendy joined the show. Thanks for joining the show. Thanks for inviting me to her paranormal investigation that we're going to do together. Wendy and her group out of Tucson, they're going to come to Phoenix. So I'm going to talk to them. We're going to decide where a great investigation is. If I have to go to Tucson, it's only 90 miles away. I don't mind to go to Tucson to check something significant out. The only thing I hope is our dog's doing okay next Saturday. Because otherwise, when my dog is not doing well, there's no way I'm leaving the house. But hopefully she's going to do well and doing better. She's doing better today and yesterday. Although tonight she's choking a little bit, so I'm a little worried. But I guess my wife's not knocking on the door to warn me, so I guess everything's okay. Miller says, I'm watching. Brian says, radiation leak refrigerant. Where is that? You're talking about the steam coming from my head. It's a radiation leak or a refrigerant because my brain's frozen. Maybe that's what he means. I don't know. John joined. John, how are you doing? Let's see. I always have to read this phonetically because it's a hard name to memorize. Azariana. She says, good evening, everyone. Azariana is the one that was abducted by aliens from the age of 5 till the age of 30 and had 4 offspring, hybrid offspring, 2 male, 2 female. You got to check out the interview I did with her, which is on YouTube. And of course, you can get it back on Facebook because Facebook gives you the ability to archive all the shows automatically. So I don't have to do anything. So just go back and look at Dave Darren's show, and you can. And by the way, if you listen to that show and you like that show, do 2 things: hit the like button, and also share the show, because I'm trying to get the show out there to more people, not to make a financial gain from the show. At 60 years old, I'm not going to make a financial gain from the show. I'm not going to land the show on Sirius or even terrestrial radio. I don't really want to be on terrestrial radio because I don't feel like having sponsors and commercials that I have to say, I love this product, when I've never even used the product. So I don't really feel like being a guy that sells out the show based upon having a bunch of sponsors. So I'm not into that. But I'd like the show to grow so that I can get more and more guests on, because you gotta realize that when you start off a show like this, and I've had a remarkable amount of luck with guests and callers like Azariana. It's been amazing. But just think, if I want to get that $1 million book selling guy out there who sold 1 million books on UFOs, and then he's going to look for the coast to coast guy to call him up. He's not going to look for Dave Darren to call him up. And if Dave Darren calls him up, and then if he does a little scope on me and sees, well, Dave's got about 1,000 people to check out his show, and this guy's used to being on shows with 100,000 viewers or 1 million, then is he going to come on this show? If he's a nice guy, maybe he would. But if he's a guy that says my time's worth an opportunity to get my voice out to 1 million people, is he going to come on this show? He will if we all start sharing the show and growing the audience. Then it can happen. Let's see. Brian says Minix. I'm not sure what Minix is. I know what Mannix was. I used to watch that show when I was a kid. Mannix. You ever watch all these old shows? Let's see. We got Kurt says, I hate to leave early, but I will rewatch later. So some people have enjoyed their entire day with their family, and they got to now either drive home or chill out or whatever they got to do. Sunday's a tough day to do a show. That's why the Thursday show gets a lot more views, and I know the reason why. By Thursday, everyone's kind of happy because they're getting closer to the weekend. So everyone is in the mood to enjoy something. Thursday's a great night, right? It's a great night. Sunday is tough because Sunday, well, first of all, Sunday, some people may go to happy hour and listen to open mics and go and listen to jazz players or something like that. And that's what I used to do, by the way. And Sunday night, people, they want to go to sleep early because Monday, man, that's a brutal day. Monday, you got to catch up on a bunch of stuff that happened on the weekend. If you're lucky enough not to have to be called on a weekend, so Monday when you get to work, you have all those issues that you have to deal with because something happened. Something freaked out on the weekend, and you got to deal with it. Let's see. John says, I used the AS400 in college. That's right. Programming in Lisp. I don't remember that one. I remember Fortran, Watt 5. I remember PL1. And I remember Pascal. I don't remember Lisp. Don't know that one. Then we got John here. My 2017 Nissan Rogue died yesterday. The alternator stopped. Now, I'm sure being a 2017 is not, I'm not going to read the rest of it. I'm going to put my hand over and not read it. I'm sure that was a nightmare to get to. I'm sure it was a cost to install if you bring it to a dealer, it's like $125 an hour. If you're lucky enough to know someone who services those cars and who is reputable, you might get away with $95 an hour. And it's going to be probably 2 hours. So your cost for that part, I'm sure you're up to $450, $500. Now I'm going to read whatever else John said here. And, okay, so he doesn't mention the cost of it, but he says my 1975 Mustang is still going strong. There you go. By the way, John also says his alternator shattered. Shattered. You know, that's something else about cars in the 70s. Stuff didn't shatter. Everything was made of metal. I've got a war on plastics. Anything that has failed that I've owned, for the most part, has failed because of a plastic components. Seriously, things that are made of plastic fail constantly. And you would think that some companies would say, okay, well, this component, this one specific gear, and I've had a gear, I've got something called a mini disc. Mini discs were popular. I lived in Japan. Mini discs are basically, it's a small CD encased in plastic. It's like the old floppy disk. You put the mini disc in, it's encased in plastic, and the little protective element that protects the disc slides when the mini disc opens it. The mini disc was an amazing product, but CDs were the thing that succeeded over and above mini disc. But I got a mini disc player that's in the car that actually TiVos 7 seconds. So if you hear a song you like or hear your broadcast that you like, press a button, it'll capture the previous 7 seconds along with everything else until you press the stop button. But I've got a mini disc player, and you know why it stopped working? And I know why, because I could physically see it and I could physically take it apart. But how the heck am I going to get a gear about this big that it was made of plastic? So the gear failed. I guess I can't. I didn't go in and open it, and I guess I can because it's a dysfunctional product at the moment. Except the radio still works, but the gear failed, so it's not moving. And am I going to be able to replace that gear? I'd have to look for another one of those mini discs, which is a hard thing to find because they're so rare. But that's what failed. The plastic gear failed. Now you would think that a company like Sony would say, what's our weakest link in this product? It's the gear, because the gear is spinning, so why not make that of metal? But then on the other hand, why make it of metal? Because we're only anticipating this thing lasting for about 7 years before it fails, and then Dave's got to buy another one, assuming that product continued on to various successions and better products. But I bet even the better products would still be made of plastic. Plastic is my enemy. Really, how many people have components that break because of the weakest link being plastic? And now everything is made of plastic. So everything is going to fail because it's plastic. You get your old 70s, 60s, and 50s cars, and they're made of metal. Now, the problem is if you're in an accident and the car's made of metal, the crunch points are screwed up, and you're going to hit your head on a metal dashboard with no cushion. So that's an issue, but the failure is going to be less, in my opinion. Azariana says, now they plug something into your car computer to see what's wrong. That's true. And maybe that's somewhat of an advantage because it's like a diagnostic. However, I did say this with our dog. Let me relate this to our dog, and I did a rant and rave a couple days ago. You take your dog to a vet. One of our vets is 70 years old. We go to him. We're thinking the guy's seen everything. He's almost like the Dr. Pol. You ever watch that on the Animal Channel? The guy's a veterinarian. He's somewhat like in Michigan or something like that in a really cold climate. And he's driving around his vehicle going to service goats, cows. There was one program where there were like 9 cows that died. It was a mysterious thing. But Dr. Pol was smart enough to realize, how could 9 cows die? So he thought about it. He thought there was an electrical storm the evening before. If the building, the stable, was hit by an electrical bolt of lightning and these cows were on a piece of metal, they would have been electrocuted. Sure enough, that's what it was. Each of those 9 cows were electrified by that bolt of lightning. So we're talking about, Azariana says you plug your car in to a computer and it gives you a diagnostic. That's true. But for instance, I'm saying with our vet, 70-year-old guy, I'm bringing our dog to him. I'm expecting him to have seen everything with the dog over the last, because he's been in business how long? Like 40, 50 years, right? I'm assuming. He's got a picture on his wall like when he was in his early 30s, so now he's 70, 40 years at least. He's seen everything. It's like that commercial for State Farm. We've seen a thing or two, right? That's what their commercial says. He's seen a thing or two. He's seen symptoms of our dog. So I would think that he would be able to say, Dave, I know exactly what's wrong with your dog. Here it is. Here's what's wrong with your dog. But now he's relying on current technology. And is current technology the catch-all? I think sometimes current technology is that veterinarian saying, okay, I know in my mind what it is. But if I take this guess or this intuition, based upon things that have happened over the last 50 years, and I'm pretty sure about what it is. The pretty sure is bad. He doesn't want to be pretty sure. He wants to be dead certain because it's going to help him alleviate a lawsuit. Because potentially maybe my dog would have died, right? Because he thought it was something, and it wasn't that at all. It was something that he thought was very closely related to another situation with another dog 10 years ago. So he diagnosed my dog with the same thing, and then my dog dies. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to say, I had an autopsy at another vet, and he says, you misdiagnosed my dog. Then he's going to have no defense other than saying, well, I thought it was that. So now instead of him saying, I thought that's what it was, now you go back to the computer stuff and say, well, the ultrasound led to this conclusion. The barium test led to this conclusion. So as a result of these computer programs, these x-rays, this data, not my head, this data misled me. So it's going to be a way to camouflage and shield him based upon that technology. So sometimes I think that's what it is as well, at least with the vet. So sometimes I don't dig computers. I've got a car that's got too much computer system. I've got this old crazy BMW that was before its time, and they just chucked it full of technology. There's one computer component in it that controls, get this, it controls the trunk, it controls the dome light, controls the dome light in the trunk as well, but the trunk, the dome light, the power locks, the power windows, and the windshield wipers. Can you believe that? So in this, do I really need my windshield wipers controlled by a computer? Do I need that, or isn't there a motor that can be put there so you click it on low, medium, and high, and the wipers move at 3 different speeds? Do I need a computer for that? Maybe the computer's in there to tell us that it's rain on the windshield, so the wiper goes on. But I don't think all cars are like that. But mine is, and the door locks. So the door locks are on that computer system. So and it's funny, that computer, that component that's gone bad, as soon as it gets warm enough, if I run the car and put it outside, back the car up outside, and it's 85 degrees, in about an hour, I will hear a click on and off. And in between that click, all the electronics works. And then finally the click stays on. And then the electronics work flawlessly forever. But I found this out. I was in California, and I was there on a business trip. I was in a hotel overnight. I got up in the morning. I couldn't open my car because the locks are controlled by that computer part. So I thought, man, I'm screwed. Finally, I went back in. It was in California, so it was in the summertime, so it was warm. So I went in thinking, okay, I'm screwed. I got to get the car to it. I got to get to work somehow. I went back out, and finally I heard that click, and I could open the car, and then I could start the car. But if I locked the car, because it thinks it's locked, if I locked it, I couldn't start the car because the alarm would go off. It was a mess because of too much computers. We got too much computer stuff now. I really think we really do. Too much. We've got an overabundance of. Do we really need that much software in our physical cars? Do we need that much software? Or it'd be nice if we had software to monitor mechanical stuff, so we can have, like, my '70s car has the piece of mechanical. It's got the mechanical fuel pump. So when the fuel pump goes bad, I don't want to replace a computer component. I can replace the fuel pump, which is like $70. But it's nice to have a computer system tell me it's the fuel pump, but it's a mechanical component instead of a piece of electronic technology, computer driven. I'd like the computer to tell me that, but I like it to be a mechanical device, guys. Me personally. See what else everyone says. A competition only when money is involved. That's what Mike says. Yeah, but the problem is that money's involved in everything now. So how can you really rule out? I mean, what doesn't have money involved? Volunteer, but does volunteer really have no money involved? I can volunteer for an animal rescue where we got all our pets. We get all of our pets from animal rescues. Are they competitive? They might be because they want donations for food so that they can protect their dogs that they very much love. So are they competitive with another rescue? They might be. They want to get on the radio stations. And I used to do, when I did terrestrial radio, I used to do fundraisers on terrestrial radio for animal rescues. So they probably knew that I've raised, one year I think we raised like $9,000 because I had bands come in and play at a venue, and it was competitive because the bands wanted to play there to get their name out there because it was really at a great venue. So there was competition there for them to get on that gig to play for a bunch of people that loved animals. And by the way, when you go to a place, when you love animals, you're more willing to go to a gig or a venue that you might not have gone to because you love the idea that it's a donation for animals. So instead of playing at a place where you have to go in and pay the door charge of $9, and what do you get? You get entertainment. When you go to a place that's doing an animal fundraiser, that $9 goes to the fundraiser for the animals. You get more and more people coming there. So you're going to get more and more people to see your band playing there more than you would at a places just for no purpose at all. So competition to play that gig is there. And the animal rescues, maybe there's competition because they want to be part of that event because they're going to get the money to help out their dogs that they highly care about. So there is competition there, right? Everything's got competition and money. Really, it does. It's tough to find anything that doesn't. I can't think off the top of my head of anything that doesn't revolve around money. Can you? If you do, let me know. Let's see what else we got here. We got another 7 minutes, and I'm going to close the show because we're doing an hour tonight. Heidi says, wouldn't it be wacky if when we die, we go back to the mothership? I think that's a possibility. We go back to the mothership, and then the mother says, the mother is giving us true love and says, you know what, Dave, you're not ready to be on the mothership. We're going to send you back down to the planet, and we're going to wipe your brain out so that we see how you progress without knowing where you progress to. Because progressing means, sometimes could mean that we want you to progress without the knowledge of what makes you a better person. So we're going to wipe your brain, send you back to the planet, and see if you can get further than you did the last time. So I think when you go back to the mothership, you're going to have a mother that's going to say, you're not ready to be here in the mothership. We're going to send you back down. I think it's a real possibility if there is that mothership. John says, no, they don't. Actually, other calls. Acknowledge other calls, rather. See, now I got to remember what I was talking about or what you might be talking about. No, they didn't acknowledge other calls. It was around 4 p.m. on a Sunday. They didn't call the police. So this is where you had called up the Air Force, right? Okay, I'm remembering now. John called up the Air Force because he saw these lights above his neighborhood. Okay, so now see, I have to think about, I got to take my train of thought and now I got to go back, I got to time travel back to 15 minutes ago, right? So John says, no, they didn't acknowledge other calls. That doesn't mean they didn't get any other calls. They just didn't acknowledge them, right? It was around 4 p.m. on a Sunday. So now 4 p.m. people would typically be out and about on a Sunday, unless it was a blizzard day or ice and snow. And I didn't call the police because what could they do? Yeah, try and give them a ticket, right? Give the UFO a ticket for speeding, right? Or for illegal photo radar. A friend of mine in the Air Force gave me a number to call. I reported it to UFO reports. And I'm assuming which. So here, this is my Beach Boy shirt. And I'm not sure if I lost the signal here. Funny, once in a while when I do the show and I'm on Facebook Live, I see Facebook Live kicking me out, and it just kicked me out a couple seconds ago. But when it did that last Thursday, there was no gap in there. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know why Facebook does that. Maybe to freak people out, to think that they're getting cut off. So Azariana says she loves my shirt. This is a Beach Boy shirt. And actually, I don't think you can see it, but there's words of songs on it. There's a bikini here. This is actually a Robert Graham shirt. So I contacted Robert Graham and I said, what cup is this bikini? Is it a C cup or what is it? And they didn't answer me back yet. Sparky says he would have a lot more fun than being on Coast to Coast. Well, thanks so much, Sparky. That's very cool for you to say that. John says Nissan said the car is under warranty. Let's see. That is his. Oh, that's his car that broke down with the what component broke? I don't remember, but that's great that your car's Nissan gives you a long warranty, right? My wife drives an Infiniti, which is a Nissan product, so I think it's 4 years, 40,000 miles on bumper to bumper. And by the way, bumper to bumper is not bumper to bumper. If your bumper is messed up, you're screwed. So it's not bumper to bumper. And I think the drivetrain is 6 years, 60,000. I think. So now we're doing like a car show here. Azariana says, I owned a 1966 Impala. It was a steel boat. Yeah, they were 66, man. They were boats. Except if you put it in the water, it's going to sink. Sparky says, got to take off. Fun show as always. Thanks so much, Sparky. Mike says, I'm a mechanic. Newer cars have modules for everything. That's exactly right. They got modules for everything. Try to reach some of those modules. Try to diagnose which, you got the computer there, and the computer's there to tell you what's wrong. Does it detect every module and tell you this module's bad? I don't know. I have too many modules. And Mike says, mechanics nowadays are part changers, basically. That's true. They're throwaway parts, right? Throwaway parts. And it's funny. You can buy, we got 2 minutes left. Then I'm going to sunset the show for tonight. You can buy quality products. We bought this, we try to buy decent quality products. So we got I can't even think of the name of it now. We got a refrigerator. Well, okay, I'll go to this. We bought this Maytag Neptune washing machine and dryer. Great product. One of the few that was front load way back. We bought it's called a Maytag Neptune. Top of the line product because we thought, okay, we buy a top of the line product and it's going to be built with quality. Because you got the Maytag repairman. Remember the commercial? And he's not doing anything. He's eating a donut because he doesn't have any repair work because the Maytag's such a solid product. You know why? It failed so many times. At this point, you might as well buy a throwaway cheap product because the Maytag didn't last a whole lot longer than the throwaway product. And it was so much more expensive than the throwaway product. We probably could have bought 3 throwaway products for the price of the Maytag and it would have lasted longer than the Maytag did. And this is something, the Maytag comes over because, oh yeah, we had something failed on it. I do remember it wouldn't go into high gear. When you get a front load machine, it's got to spin fast to dry off the clothes, and it goes into hyperdrive, goes into warp factor 9. You can hear it. You can hear the gears engage, and the spin is amazingly quick. All right, so it failed. The lock mechanism failed. And you know what it was? It was a computer component inside the units. And you know what? The Maytag guy came here when he told me, and it wasn't a Maytag guy, it was someone else that came here that was sent by Maytag. The guy told me, he says, these were rushed to market because it's one of the first front load washing machines out there. It was rushed to market. They knew it was going to have a failure. They knew they were going to have a recall because there was a recall on that component. They said that Maytag decided to take the risk on the recall so they can get the product out there to beat their competition. So they would take the damage on the recall. There's the way some components and some manufacturers work. They want to beat their competitors to market. They're willing to put in an inferior product that has potential failures because they want to beat everyone else to market. Screw the consumer with the inconvenience of a product that's failed. Forget about him. He's not important. What is important is that we sell the product. To the consumer, it's going to have problems with the product because we rushed it to market with all the potential flaws it has. That's what we deal with today. And Autumn joined. Autumn, you joined, and I'm dying out right now. It's 8:01. We've been on 8:01 in the West Coast. I'd like to stay on longer, but you know what? It's Mother's Day, even though my wife and I have no children except for our dog and 2 cats. So we are parents, right? I'm gonna sign out now, and I'm gonna enjoy the rest of the night with my 3 kids and my wife, who's watching TV right now. Hopefully, she's not watching the Kardashians, because if she is, then I gotta be with my wife, 2 cats, and a dog with earplugs, which I've got somewhere. Let me get the earplugs. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna end the show tonight with singing a song. I got my mic here. I'm going to use this and put it in my car as a stick shift. So I got this old classic microphone, which now obviously doesn't work. But I'm going to adapt it. I'm going to make the gear shift on my Jeep This is going to be kind of cool. And the other shift I have for the 4-wheel drive is actually a skull, reminiscent of when I used to do the music show for rock and metal. So it looks like a kind of groovy car, right? If we can use the word groovy. Can we still use the word groovy? Someone else commented here. Deanne says, I very much enjoy your show. See you next Sunday. Well, you don't see you next Thursday. I'm on 2 nights a week. I'm on Thursdays and I'm on Sundays, the same time, 7 o'clock Pacific time, 10 o'clock East Coast time. So join us on Thursday. And Thursday, by the way, is the show that gets more listeners because Thursday is the rock and roll night, meaning that people are approaching Friday, so they're in a great mood because they only have to Thursday to listen to the show, and they think, oh, that's great. I listened to Dave's show. I only got one more day of work, and I'm off for the weekend. So why not? Let's listen to Dave's show. He's got something cool going on. Thursday night's the better night to be here. Sunday night's cool too because it's a relaxing night. But Sunday we got the stress of going to work on Monday, and a lot of us go to work at our day jobs because that's what makes us money. It fills the refrigerator. So Sunday nights are not the best nights. It's not the best night for me either because I like doing this more than I do my day gig. And when you do something that you really love, doing something that you used to love, but is no longer equal to what you really love, the gap between the two becomes huge. So that means that I want to do this every single day and not my day gig, but I got to eat as well. I got to buy these shirts. Bob says, good note, Dave. Good night. I thought, let's change the O to an I, but I can't do that. Have a great night, Dave, from Azariana. Let's see. Autumn says, all right. So should I end the show by singing a song, Fly Me to the Moon? I'm going to do that. Let's see. I'll pull it up here. And you know what? I should plug in the high fidelity. So hang on. I've used my voice for an hour, so you're not going to get the best out of me. When you get older, the voice starts to kick out. And there is proof of that. It's this guy out of Philadelphia. His name's Sid Mark. Sid Marks, S on the end. Sydney, but he goes by Sid Marks. He's on this, used to be on this go back a little bit and I'll talk a little bit more. He does a show called Sunday with Sinatra on WPHT, which is a Philadelphia AM station. He used to be on WMMR or WWDB, which was a jazz station 24/7. And he did a show there Friday with Frank, Sunday with Sinatra. And he's dedicated, I think he's been on 63 years of doing just a show on Frank Sinatra. And that's it. But if you listen to his interviews, because today I was listening to him because he's got to be like 80 something or almost 80. And his voice is weak. And if you listen to him because I streamed a show that was on YouTube of when he was he must have been in his 30s. His voice was great. He had a huge voice, a great radio voice. And now the air capacity is lesser. So his voice is not as dynamic as it used to be when he did the interviews with Sinatra. So my voice is starting to get weaker too. Everyone's body parts become weaker and weaker and weaker. Eventually, maybe maybe it's good to have all these computer components in cars now. So eventually we'll build a house for me, which will be an alien body. It'll be an android. And I'll be able to put my brain in the android and I'll be able to live till 1,000. But would I want to live till 1,000? Who knows? It's going to be Fly Me to the Moon, guys. Let me make sure I got the stereo working here before I start the song. Let me just give it a little quick thing here. We're going to pump up the volume. All right, so that's it for tonight. I'm going to play this, and I'm going to play the closing theme of the show, and then we're done. And I'll see you Thursday nights, okay? Here we go, guys. Is it playing? Here we go. Fly me to the moon. Let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, baby, kiss me. Fill my heart with songs and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worshipped and adored. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. Don't we miss Big Band? I should put the Sinatra hat on here. With the long hair, it doesn't work though. Doesn't work at all. Gotta do like Bobby Darin. Why don't you fill my heart with song? Let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worshipped and adored. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. And now we're done. Now we get to play the final song of the show, the theme song. And I'll see you guys on Thursday. Don't forget to join the show on Thursday, guys, okay? Talk to you later.